What if the most trusted voice on earth told Meghan Markle to stop using his name? It was meant to be a triumph. A glossy rollout of handcrafted jars, eco-conscious packaging, and a curated narrative designed to reclaim Meghan Markle's place in the lifestyle world. The brand, as ever, marked her bold return to commerce, one that promised sustainability, mindfulness, and prestige. But in less than 24 hours, what began as a highly orchestrated celebration descended into a humiliating public disaster. And the spark? A single line delivered through the voice of a global icon. Don't use my name. Before we continue, please like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for updates. That name, Sir David Attenborough. The moment that quote hit the newswire, the internet ignited. Social media exploded with disbelief. News channels picked it up within minutes. Memes flooded Twitter and TikTok. And within hours, Meghan Markle's team had gone radio silent, pulling back promotional material and editing content. What had happened behind the scenes? Why would the world's most beloved environmentalist publicly distance himself from Meghan's brand? And most importantly, what does this say about Meghan's strategy and misstep? To understand the gravity of this moment, you need to understand the players involved. Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex, has spent the last few years caught between reinvention and reintegration. After stepping down from royal duties with Prince Harry, she pivoted toward building her image independently, through interviews, streaming deals, and branded ventures. From archetypes on Spotify to her Netflix docuseries, Meghan has tried to build an empire rooted in advocacy, storytelling, and lifestyle branding. But with each step, she's been followed by critics who question her authenticity and motives. That skepticism made her latest endeavor all the more crucial. This wasn't just a jam jar or an apricot spread. This was her attempt to relaunch herself not just as a duchess but as a tastemaker. The brand, as ever, was designed with subtle elegance, handwritten fonts, monochromatic color schemes, and eco-friendly sourcing. It was pitched as a blend of tradition and modernity, a nod to simpler times with the sophistication of today's wellness culture. It checked every marketing box. But beneath the surface was a ticking time bomb. Enter Sir David Attenborough, a name that needs no introduction in the United Kingdom or around the globe. At 98 years old, Sir David is more than a broadcaster. He is a global elder statesman of the natural world. With a career spanning over 7 decades, his voice has narrated the rise and fall of ecosystems, the wonder of evolution, and the urgent need to protect the planet. He is as respected as he is revered. Politicians avoid criticizing him. Celebrities praise him. The public trusts him. He is a moral compass in a world of shifting narratives. So when his name appeared, however subtly, in Meghan Markle's brand literature, red flags were immediately raised. The issue wasn't a direct quote or a photographed endorsement. No, it was more insidious. Leaked promotional materials from As Ever showed Meghan's team, referring to inspiration drawn from great conservationists and storytellers like Sir David Attenborough. In another internal email, circulated among potential influencers and brand ambassadors, there was a bullet point that read, "Our commitment to nature follows the legacy of Attenborough and others." Harmless? Maybe to the casual reader. But to someone like Sir David, who has meticulously avoided brand endorsements throughout his career, this was an unacceptable overreach. And it didn't take long for his team to respond. In a curt but powerful statement released through his longtime communications director, Sir David made his position clear. Sir David Attenborough has not endorsed or authorized any brand or product bearing his name or likeness. Any suggestion to the contrary is entirely inaccurate and must cease immediately. That was it. No elaboration. No negotiation. Just a line in the sand. But the blow landed harder than anyone expected. Because it wasn't just a rejection, it was a public rebuke. Coming from Attenborough, it was equivalent to being disavowed by the conscience of the country. Inside Meghan's camp, the reaction was frantic. According to a former PR contractor who spoke anonymously, the moment the statement dropped, phones started ringing. Meghan's media team was blindsided. They had not expected a response, let alone one that sharp. Within an hour, they began scrubbing the brand's Instagram page, removing captions that referenced conservation. An archived version of the website, captured by online sleuths, showed an entire section devoted to environmental influence, featuring vague references to documentary icons. That section disappeared overnight. But the damage had already been done, because this wasn't just about one statement. It became a symbol of everything critics have accused Meghan of, leveraging other people's reputations to polish her own image, using respected names to anchor her brand in legitimacy, and doing so without explicit permission. For her detractors, this was vindication. For her supporters, it was a painful setback. And for the general public, it was pure spectacle, a rare moment where the curated polish of celebrity branding cracked in real time. The backlash took multiple forms. British tabloids had a field day. One headline read, "Meghan's Marmalade Mess. Attenborough Strikes Back." American late-night hosts picked up the story. One comedian joked, "Imagine trying to greenwash your brand using the one guy who never sold a single reusable water bottle." Even environmental activists joined the fray, applauding Sir David's stand against brand co-option. But why did this moment hit so hard? Because in an age of performative activism and influencer branding, authenticity is the final currency. Meghan's critics believe she spends hers too freely, and Sir David Attenborough, who has always refused to cash in on his fame, became the unwilling measuring stick of sincerity. This wasn't the first time Meghan's branding tactics faced scrutiny, but it was the first time someone so globally respected pushed back so forcefully and so publicly. What followed was a wave of introspection in media and marketing circles. Panels were convened on morning shows debating celebrity endorsement ethics. PR experts wrote op-eds dissecting where Meghan's team went wrong. The central question became impossible to ignore. At what point does inspiration become exploitation? But perhaps the most significant fallout was personal. According to one former palace aide, Prince Harry was gutted by the backlash. Not necessarily because of the rejection itself, but because of the symbolic distance it placed between his wife and the British establishment he once belonged to. Sir David Attenborough had attended royal events with Prince William, collaborated with the Queen on environmental programs, and had always remained on good terms with the monarchy. This incident, while commercial on the surface, deepened the rift between Meghan and the broader royal legacy. Insiders now say the king's advisors used the moment to further argue against Meghan's future involvement in royal charitable partnerships. If she can't be trusted with a brand, one source reportedly said, how can she be trusted with a patronage? Meghan herself has yet to comment directly. But sources close to her say she was heartbroken and blindsided by Attenborough's reaction. One confidant reportedly told a tabloid she thought it was a gentle nod, a tribute, not something that would spark this kind of fury. Whether that's true or simply damage control is up for debate. But what's certain is that this incident has put her brand launch on the defensive. It also raises uncomfortable questions. Why was her team so confident that such a reference would go unnoticed or unchallenged? Was there a breakdown in judgment, or was it a calculated gamble? And if it was the latter, who signed off? As the story unfolds, more questions than answers remain. Was this simply an innocent misstep, a tribute that backfired? Or was it yet another example of a celebrity crossing ethical boundaries in the race for attention and credibility? Regardless, one thing is clear. When Sir David Attenborough speaks, the world listens. And when he says, "Don't use my name," the fallout is swift, public, and irreversible. When Meghan Markle introduced, as ever to the world, it was more than just the launch of a product line. It was the unveiling of a personal philosophy dressed in the sleek packaging of a modern luxury brand. Carefully timed, selectively previewed to a curated group of influencers, and shrouded in the soft glow of sustainable wellness. As ever was marketed not just as a collection of goods, but as an experience. The lifestyle brand was to be the centerpiece of Meghan's long-anticipated re-entry into public life. One she could control completely, free from palace advisors or streaming executives. At face value, as ever appeared like many boutique lifestyle brands rising in the age of conscious consumerism. It offered handmade fruit preserves with ethically sourced ingredients. Candles poured into recyclable glass jars, each with a minimalist label and a poetic name like Morning Peace or Coastal Solitude. There were eco-linen aprons, tiny ceramic plates, dried flower bundles, all evoking a curated rustic charm aimed squarely at the millennial and Gen Z luxury market. Each item was positioned to feel like a direct extension of Meghan's personal brand, clean, classy, rooted in purpose. But beneath that simplicity was a calculated architecture. This wasn't an Etsy experiment. It was the launch of a media and retail juggernaut disguised as artisanal intimacy. Sources close to the project said Meghan's team spent over a year refining the aesthetic. Designers were flown in from Denmark to advise on packaging texture. A retired Michelin food stylist was allegedly hired to create the visual feel of the preserves. The launch strategy was built to mirror how companies like Goop and SKKN grew, by making the founder inseparable from the product. And that was the cornerstone of Meghan's plan, brand by association. Not just with her own image, but with the values, names, and causes that command respect. Unlike traditional marketing campaigns that secure formal endorsements, Meghan's brand strategy leaned on suggestion. That's where the trouble began. In early internal pitch decks circulated among potential retail partners, Meghan's team emphasized that as ever was inspired by generations of thoughtful living, and more pointedly, by icons of sustainability and narrative integrity such as Sir David Attenborough and Alice Waters. This language was key. It never directly claimed endorsement, but rather implied that as ever was built in the spirit of such figures. A sly nod, a wink of credibility. It didn't stop there. A separate set of influencer briefing notes referenced the need to highlight as ever's Attenborough-worthy dedication to nature. In one leaked email, a member of Meghan's marketing team advised a social media manager to ensure that content reflects the energy of high-integrity visionaries, Attenborough, Mandela, Brené Brown, etc. These notes were not public-facing, but they shaped the language used in promotional material and press interviews. And at the heart of this structure was Meghan herself. To those observing from outside, the brand launch was a continuation of Meghan's public reinvention. No longer just a duchess estranged from the royal fold, she was now a conscious entrepreneur offering handcrafted authenticity to a weary public. The royal crown may have slipped, but the cultural crown, bestowed by consumer adoration, was still in reach. However, Meghan's plan carried an inherent risk. The product and the person were now fused. Every candle or jam jar was a reflection of her. Every marketing choice, intentional or not, would be seen as a message, and every reference, however vague, to revered public figures would be scrutinized. Her choice to include veiled references to Sir David Attenborough wasn't just a throwaway marketing tactic. It was part of a larger blueprint. Meghan wanted as ever to be about longevity, heritage, planet-conscious refinement. To associate it with figures like Attenborough was not simply to borrow credibility, but to anchor the brand in moral gravity. If Goop sells aspirational rebellion, and SKKN sells flawless aesthetic control, as ever aimed to sell meaningful elegance, high-minded products that stood for something. But that something became increasingly difficult to define as launch day approached. For every carefully staged Instagram photo of a speckled apricot preserve in natural morning light, there was an underlying question. Who is this brand really for? The price point excluded many who had supported Meghan in her earlier public endeavors. One of the jars of preserves sold for nearly $20. Not for a set, but for a single small jar. A candle came in at $48. The linen apron? Nearly $90. The claim was that these were handmade, local, sustainably sourced. But to the average consumer, they were simply inaccessible. Critics were quick to pounce. She's trying to be Duchess Martha Stewart, one columnist wrote, but without the warmth or the credibility. Others argued that as ever was yet another example of celebrity commodification, selling identity instead of substance. The brand's Instagram page was flooded with comments like, $1.20 for jam? Are you serious? And you want us to save the planet one overpriced candle at a time. Still, there was initial momentum. Certain wellness influencers, some paid, others simply eager to align with celebrity, posted unboxing videos and glowing reviews. High-profile stylists tagged their new morning altar setups with as ever-dried herbs. The marketing engine was humming. And then, the Attenborough quote dropped. When Sir David's team issued their public denial of involvement and stated that he had not consented to the use of his name, the brand's momentum came to a grinding halt. Almost overnight, promotional content vanished or was modified. Retail partners began asking questions. Influencers who had posted just hours before began deleting their stories or updating their captions to clarify they were gifted items, not paid endorsements. The implication was clear. This was a brand built on an illusion of shared values, and that illusion had just collapsed. The internal fallout was worse. According to a marketing agency source who had been contracted for pre-launch strategy, panic set in within Meghan's team. Slack channels went dead. Scheduled press interviews were abruptly canceled. One team member reportedly left the project altogether, citing reputational concerns. This wasn't just a public relations setback, it was a brand identity crisis. As ever had been sold as a reflection of Meghan's core beliefs. But when a figure as iconic and unassailable as Sir David Attenborough denounced any association, it exposed a structural weakness. The brand's authenticity rested on borrowed ethos. From that moment on, everything was questioned. If Attenborough didn't support the brand, what about the other implied associations? Was Alice Waters ever informed she was referenced? Were any of the sustainability claims independently verified? And most damagingly, if Meghan was willing to invoke someone like Attenborough without consent, where else had lines been blurred? A slow bleed of disillusionment followed. Eco-bloggers who had initially praised the brand began updating their reviews with disclaimers. Consumer watchdog groups flagged some of the environmental claims as vague or unverifiable. A prominent retailer in London postponed stocking the line indefinitely, citing confusion around its promotional ethics. And yet, despite the unraveling, there remained a quiet base of supporters who argued that Meghan's intentions were misunderstood. They believed as ever was an earnest attempt at doing good in a world dominated by fast fashion and exploitative marketing. But even among these defenders, a sobering truth settled in. Intention without execution is no longer enough in the modern branding arena. Meghan had tried to build a lifestyle empire on the scaffolding of respectability. But respect, unlike marketing, cannot be manufactured. It is earned, slowly, through clarity, permission, and transparency. By tying her brand so closely to the image of others, she had unwittingly made it vulnerable to collapse at the slightest rebuke. And Sir David Attenborough's words weren't just a rebuke, they were a wrecking ball. In the swirling noise of modern celebrity culture, few names still command universal respect. In the United Kingdom, and across much of the world, Sir David Attenborough is one of those rare names that stands untouched by scandal, spin, or self-interest. He is, quite literally, the voice of nature. But more than that, he is a symbol of consistency, humility, and reverence for truth, qualities that have grown increasingly rare in the age of social media influencers, performative activism, and brand marketing masquerading as morality. To understand the weight of his public rejection of Meghan Markle's brand, as ever, one must first understand who Sir David Attenborough is and why invoking his name without permission was never going to go unnoticed. Born in 1926, Attenborough's life has been defined by a single, unshakable passion, the natural world. Long before climate change was a trending topic or before documentaries became cinematic spectacles, Attenborough was in the field, speaking softly to the camera about ants in the Amazon, birds on remote islands, and coral reefs teeming with undiscovered life. His earliest work, Zoo Quest, aired in 1954, and it marked the beginning of a broadcasting career that would span more than 70 years. From Life on Earth to Blue Planet to Planet Earth 2, his work has educated generations not only about nature, but about our moral responsibility to protect it. What sets Attenborough apart is not just his longevity, but his integrity. Over the decades, while countless other public figures have accepted lucrative deals and product endorsements, Sir David has stayed remarkably distant from commercialism. Despite being one of the most recognizable voices in the world, he has never licensed it to sell products, not even environmentally friendly ones. He has turned down massive brand partnerships, including high-paying offers from energy companies looking to greenwash their image, tech firms wanting to attach his name to sustainable devices, and luxury clothing lines seeking environmental credibility. In a media landscape built on monetization, his refusal to cash in on his name has been both admirable and strategic. He knows the power of his voice, and he knows that power only exists because it hasn't been sold. This is why the as ever incident struck such a raw nerve. When Meghan Markle's brand subtly invoked his name, as someone whose work inspired its approach to sustainability, it wasn't a legal violation, but it was a moral affront. Because unlike many celebrities, Attenborough has made it publicly clear, time and time again, that he does not wish to be part of product marketing. He believes that environmental causes speak for themselves, that credibility is earned through action, not association. In interviews, he has explained his philosophy with disarming clarity. The moment you use nature to sell something, you risk distorting both, he once said. To him, the natural world is sacred. To use it as branding language, even for seemingly aligned causes, runs the risk of trivializing its seriousness. It is also important to note how Sir David views public influence. He does not believe in using his status to shame, accuse, or manipulate. Throughout his long career, even as the evidence for climate change mounted, Attenborough avoided polemics. Instead, he showed, explained, revealed. His method was not confrontation, it was exposure through education. His belief was always that once people saw the majesty of the world, they would be compelled to protect it. When he finally became more vocal in recent years, speaking directly about climate change, rising oceans, deforestation, and pollution, he did so carefully, always mindful of tone. His address to the United Nations, his surprise appearance at COP26, his collaborations with global scientists, these were not attention-grabbing stunts, but thoughtful contributions, grounded in science and delivered without ego. That restraint is precisely what made his statement regarding Meghan's brand all the more significant. Because Sir David Attenborough does not do public statements lightly. He does not involve himself in tabloid drama, social media feuds, or lifestyle controversies. So when his team felt compelled to issue a public correction, denying any association with his ever, it was not a minor clarification, it was a calculated step to protect his legacy. His statement read, in full, Sir David Attenborough has not endorsed or authorized any brand, product, or organization bearing his name or likeness. Any use of his name to imply endorsement is inaccurate and should be corrected. It was not long. It did not mention Meghan Markle by name, but it was as powerful as it was restrained. The omission of her name was deliberate. It communicated that Attenborough would not even grant the dignity of personal engagement. To him, it was not a feud. It was a boundary being enforced. The British public reacted with immediate clarity. For many, Attenborough's rejection of his ever-confirmed suspicions that Meghan's branding efforts were veering into manipulation. If someone as unassailable as Attenborough felt the need to set the record straight, something had clearly gone very wrong. In the days that followed, online commentary painted a clear narrative. Attenborough stood for quiet dignity, Markle for curated performance. Whether fair or not, the contrast could not have been sharper. Part of what makes Attenborough's influence so lasting is that it is not built on personality. He does not dominate headlines with controversy. He does not tweet. He does not craft a personal brand. His persona is not about being seen, but about drawing attention to things bigger than himself. That ethos has made him one of the most trusted voices in the modern world. Polls consistently rank him among the most admired men in Britain, often beating out royals, prime ministers, and celebrities. In this way, his voice carries not only personal weight but national symbolism. When he speaks, it is understood that he is not speaking from vanity, but from principle. And when he rejects association, it is received as an act of ethical clarity, not pettiness. Attenborough's statement, then, had consequences that went beyond one brand. It became a quiet referendum on how public trust is built and how easily it can be eroded when someone attempts to borrow credibility without permission. For Meghan, the use of Attenborough's name may have seemed like a flattering gesture, a way to signal values through association. But for Attenborough, it was a boundary crossing. And in his world, where nature is sacred and authenticity is non-negotiable, that matters. Even within media and brand circles, there was a moment of pause. Public relations strategists who had long navigated the delicate line between inspiration and exploitation now had a new case study. What happens when you invoke an icon who refuses to be commodified? In classrooms, Attenborough's documentaries are still shown to children. In scientific communities, he is cited as a gateway for public understanding of biology and climate. His influence is generational, not viral. And so when he speaks, especially about something as seemingly trivial as a product line, the reaction is seismic. There is another element to Attenborough's power. He has never needed defenders. He doesn't fight back. He simply corrects and continues. That, in a world obsessed with reaction and spectacle, is a form of quiet rebellion. It is also a demonstration of something Meghan Markle has struggled to cultivate: lasting, unshakable credibility. The Attenborough-Markle clash was not a personal one, but it felt symbolic. It represented the growing tension between two very different versions of public life, one built on visibility and the other on stewardship. One that trades on association, and one that rejects it entirely. Perhaps that is the lasting lesson of this conflict. That in a time when nearly everything has a price tag, there remain a few rare individuals who refuse to be bought. Sir David Attenborough's refusal to be associated with as ever was not just a media moment, it was a reminder that authenticity, when real, still matters. It began like a ripple in the early morning media current, a simple press statement buried beneath other headlines, as if it might pass quietly through the news cycle. But within minutes, it detonated into something far more volatile. The moment Sir David Attenborough publicly disassociated himself from Meghan Markle's lifestyle brand, the fallout was immediate, total, and almost surgical in its consequences. The statement itself was short, stripped of emotion, and, as is customary with Attenborough's carefully controlled public image, respectful but firm. It read, "Sir David Attenborough has not endorsed or authorized any brand, product, or organization bearing his name or likeness. Any use of his name to imply endorsement is inaccurate and should be corrected." 6 lines. No names. No accusations. No dramatic punctuation. But those few words landed with the precision of a scalpel. It wasn't a rebuttal, it was a boundary, enforced by a man who rarely speaks on personal controversies and almost never engages with the chaos of modern celebrity. The press caught on immediately. Newsrooms in London, New York, and Sydney scrambled to confirm the source. Within an hour, Sky News was flashing the statement on its ticker. By noon, the Daily Mail had published an explosive headline: "Sir David rejects Meghan's brand." The Times was more restrained but still sharp. Attenborough distances himself from as ever. Across the Atlantic, CNN, MSNBC, and even conservative outlets like Fox News picked up the story, noting the rare instance of such a dignified figure stepping into a potentially political fray. But the most significant reactions were not coming from television anchors or journalists. They came from within the walls of Buckingham Palace, where the atmosphere reportedly shifted from mere curiosity to smirking vindication. For members of the royal family, especially those who had long grown wary of Meghan's public reinventions, Sir David's statement was perceived as a moment of righteous clarity. According to a high-level royal insider speaking anonymously, there was a sense of relief. Finally, someone outside the palace said what they couldn't. Sir David Attenborough is not just a beloved public figure, he has a long and respectful history with the British monarchy. He worked with Queen Elizabeth II on multiple BBC nature specials. He shared the stage with Prince William for climate change panels. He toured royal gardens and advised royal-led conservation charities. In a world where royal reputations are as much about appearance as action, Sir David's alignment has always been viewed as a quiet seal of approval. So his decision to draw a hard line between himself and Meghan, no matter how professionally it was worded, hit harder than any direct criticism from within the firm itself. Behind closed doors, palace aides reportedly expressed frustration that they had been put in this position once again. One aide, speaking off the record to a royal correspondent, said, "We've had to watch for years as Meghan used every symbol of British integrity she could touch, and now the last true national icon has had to publicly distance himself. It's sad, but predictable." Sources close to King Charles say he was stunned by the speed and sharpness of the public statement. One confidant described his reaction as measured but intensely focused. The king, known for his deep environmental commitments and personal admiration for Attenborough, reportedly reviewed the statement personally during a meeting with royal communications staff and made a note to avoid any entanglement with the as-ever fallout. Prince William, however, was less reserved. Privately, he is said to have felt vindicated. For years, William has led environmental initiatives alongside Attenborough and is believed to share his distaste for performative activism. Attenborough attended the Earthshot Prize, the prince's high-profile environmental awards ceremony, and has appeared with William in multiple documentaries. According to a source close to Kensington Palace, William regarded the Meghan situation as a necessary correction in public discourse. He reportedly told an advisor, "David's done what we couldn't," he said no. The deeper impact within the royal apparatus was strategic. Meghan Markle's as-ever brand had been positioned, at least by her team, as something that still carried faint royal echoes. While she and Harry had stepped back from official duties, the branding still carried undertones of royal sophistication, heritage, and legacy. The use of indirect associations, whether with British causes or cultural figures, had long been a subtle way to suggest that Meghan still inhabited the orbit of regal legitimacy. Attenborough's statement shattered that illusion. It made clear, in front of the entire world, that association without permission would not be tolerated. not even by someone as famously polite as Sir David. Public response was swift and brutal. Twitter exploded with reactions, many praising Attenborough's dignity and firmness. Hashtags like hashtag not with Meghan, hashtag Attenborough says no, and hashtag fake endorsements began trending globally. TikTok users created side-by-side videos comparing Meghan's promotional materials with Attenborough's statement. One video titled "The Earth Fights Back" received over 5 million views in 24 hours. In talk shows and opinion pieces, the framing was consistent. Meghan had overreached. This wasn't just an embarrassing misstep, it was a violation of trust. And more importantly, it revealed a pattern that many believed had followed her since leaving royal life. Using names, titles, and implications to build a brand that never quite stood on its own. By the next day, the story had ballooned into a global debate. Should public figures be allowed to loosely associate with revered names in the absence of formal approval? Where is the line between inspiration and appropriation? And more to the point, how had Meghan Markle, someone already under immense public scrutiny, failed to foresee that this tactic would backfire so catastrophically? Amid this media maelstrom, Meghan's PR team was scrambling. A planned press appearance to promote the As Ever brand was quietly postponed. An interview scheduled with a major women's magazine was suddenly rescheduled due to a scheduling conflict. And within 48 hours, the As Ever website removed a full paragraph from its About Us page, one that had previously praised unnamed icons of sustainability and storytelling. Internally, crisis meetings were held. An unnamed consultant who had previously worked with Meghan's branding team claimed that there was intense pressure to frame the incident as a misunderstanding. They wanted to pitch it as Meghan being inspired, not promotional, he said. But the language used in the marketing was deliberate. They walked too close to the fire. Even as the internal damage was being managed, the external consequences continued to mount. Influencers who had posted promotional content for As Ever began adding clarifications. One post was updated with the disclaimer, not affiliated with Sir David Attenborough or any official organization. A prominent food blogger removed her entire post, citing discomfort with the evolving narrative. And by the end of the week, As Ever's social media following had stalled, losing over 15,000 followers in 3 days. Perhaps the most telling moment came when Sir David Attenborough was approached by a journalist at a climate summit in Edinburgh days later. When asked whether he had anything more to say about the Meghan incident, he simply smiled, paused, and replied, "The natural world is bigger than all of this." Then he walked away. That one sentence captured the essence of why the public trusted him, and why his rebuke carried such devastating weight. He wasn't interested in feuds, nor in fame. He was interested in facts, in integrity, and in keeping his name away from anything that distracted from the message he had spent his life delivering. Protect the planet, honor truth, and don't sell what you can't explain. For Meghan Markle, the message was clear. Whether intentional or not, her brand had crossed a sacred boundary. And in doing so, it had triggered a quiet but thunderous rebuke from a man the world doesn't just admire, but listens to. The moment Sir David Attenborough's statement hit the public domain, Meghan Markle's meticulously crafted launch for As Ever began to collapse from within. What had been positioned as a graceful re-entry into public life, one steeped in sustainability, social consciousness, and curated elegance, was suddenly derailed by a 6-sentence denial. But the real story wasn't just the public humiliation. It was what happened in the hours, then days, that followed. This wasn't a normal PR stumble. This was a controlled detonation, and the detonation was happening in real time. Inside Meghan's private Montecito estate, the atmosphere reportedly shifted from celebration to chaos within minutes. According to multiple insiders close to the project, the morning of the launch had started with optimism. Influencers had been lined up. Instagram posts had been scheduled to roll out in timed intervals. There were live counters on Shopify tracking purchases. Brand partners, retail reps, and press contacts had been looped into private Zoom previews. But by midday, all eyes were glued to a single screen, news aggregators flashing headlines that the brand's key environmental muse had just publicly rejected them. The first sign of panic was the sudden silence. One influencer who had posted an unboxing video of the As Ever candle set said her contact at Meghan's team stopped responding to messages the moment the Attenborough statement broke. "It was like they vanished," she said. "Usually when I post something of that scale, I get a thank you message or at least a comment from their team hyping it up. This time a radio silence. By early afternoon, internal Slack channels were reportedly locked down. According to a freelance graphic designer hired for the launch, a new chat room was suddenly created and access was tightly restricted. We were told not to comment publicly, he said. We were also asked to hold off on future content scheduling until narrative clarification was achieved. That was the actual phrase they used, narrative clarification. While the public saw a brand unraveling from the outside, inside the walls of Meghan's brand operation, an all-out communications war room had been activated. Crisis PR firms in Los Angeles and London were brought in. At least 3 advisors were reportedly tasked with monitoring online sentiment across platforms. A separate team was asked to comb through Ever's social media posts and delete or modify any that made reference, direct or implied, to external figures like Attenborough. It started small. On the brand's Instagram page, a post that had originally said, inspired by the world's greatest storytellers of the planet, including voices like David Attenborough, was quietly edited. The caption now read, inspired by nature and the timeless voices who have celebrated it for generations. Next came the website. An entire Our Values section on the homepage had previously included a line. We are informed by voices like Sir David Attenborough, whose stewardship of the natural world shaped our principles. By midnight that day, the section was removed. A cached version from an earlier archive revealed that the quote had existed, something news outlets quickly picked up and added to their reporting. But perhaps the clearest sign of internal meltdown came from the rapidly growing inconsistency in messaging. On social media, some accounts affiliated with the brand continued promoting product launches, seemingly unaware of the unfolding controversy. One post even used the hashtag inspired by legends, sparking a flood of critical comments accusing the team of being tone-deaf and dismissive. Within an hour, that post was taken down. Meanwhile, Meghan's personal staff was trying to construct a parallel defense, one that positioned her as the victim of media overreach. According to a close friend who spoke anonymously, the Duchess was devastated and completely blindsided by Attenborough's rejection. She reportedly believed the reference was respectful and intended as homage, not endorsement. But behind the scenes, her team knew the nuance would not be enough to shield her from criticism. A proposed official response was drafted but never released. According to sources familiar with the crisis discussions, the drafted statement read, "We have always held deep admiration for the contributions of individuals like Sir David Attenborough. Any reference made to such figures in the launch of As Ever was made in the spirit of gratitude and inspiration, not commercial association." But that message never made it out. Advisors close to Meghan reportedly convinced her that releasing a statement would only deepen the news cycle and risk fueling further headlines. The best response, they argued, was silence. However, silence came at a cost. Influencers who had partnered with the brand were now left hanging. One wellness blogger who had received an exclusive As Ever launch kit said she regretted posting about it at all. "The minute my audience started asking about the Attenborough thing, I felt like I was trapped," she said. "I didn't sign up to be part of a controversy. I thought it was just jam and candles." Another fitness personality who had been scheduled to do a full product breakdown on YouTube canceled the video entirely. "I can't be part of something that drags someone like Sir David into brand drama," she tweeted. Retailers, too, began to pull back. A British upscale grocer that had been in talks to stock As Ever's preserves quietly shelved the partnership, citing unexpected changes in public sentiment. A US-based eco-marketplace that had planned to carry the line postponed its product onboarding indefinitely. These responses weren't just anecdotal. Data showed the brand's digital presence faltering. Engagement on As Ever's posts dropped by 68% over the following 48 hours. Web traffic, which had spiked on launch morning, dropped below pre-launch projections by the third day. Even worse, several Reddit threads began compiling screenshots of edits, deletions, and contradictions in the brand's messaging, evidence of an unfolding scramble. The internal PR strategy now had to shift from damage control to containment. No longer just trying to rescue a single brand narrative, the team now faced the task of shielding Meghan herself from reputational harm. According to a former aide who had worked with Meghan during the Sussex Royal Foundation era, the current backlash felt eerily familiar. "It's always the same pattern," he said. "There's a big launch, huge ambition, lots of buzz, but then a detail gets overlooked or a line gets crossed, and the entire operation swings into defense. It's exhausting, even from the outside. Media experts weighed in quickly. In op-eds, communications consultants dissected the unfolding mess. One wrote, "This is what happens when marketing is driven by persona, not principle." Meghan's team assumed that association would uplift the brand. They never calculated that the association might reject them. Crisis PR veteran Laura Jenkins appeared on a late-night news panel and offered perhaps the sharpest assessment. Meghan Markle's brand didn't just misuse a name, it misread a culture. You don't touch Attenborough unless he touches back. That's branding 101 in Britain. In the absence of a clear apology, some of Meghan's allies tried to reframe the story. A small but vocal group of Twitter supporters launched the hashtag #InspiredNotAffiliated, trying to argue that Meghan's reference to Attenborough was misinterpreted. But the movement failed to gain traction. Most users either mocked it or ignored it. Meanwhile, independent watchdog groups began to call for more scrutiny over celebrity branding ethics. A prominent consumer accountability forum published a blog titled, "When Inspiration Becomes Implication," using as ever as a case study for what not to do when launching a mission-driven brand. The emotional toll on Meghan, though not publicly acknowledged, was reportedly immense. Those closest to her say she had put her soul into the launch and felt betrayed by the backlash. One friend described her as personally hurt that something meant to represent integrity was now being portrayed as manipulative. And yet, the damage was already done. The backlash had evolved beyond a specific mistake. It had become a narrative. A narrative that said, Meghan Markle doesn't just sell products, she sells stories. And when those stories feel too polished, too convenient, or too opportunistic, the public doesn't just tune out, they push back. In real time, her brand had been reframed not as a symbol of thoughtful living, but as a cautionary tale. A tale about the risks of celebrity commodification. A tale about how a single sentence from the right person can cut through an entire year's worth of branding. And most tragically, a tale about how even the most carefully curated empires can crumble if they're built too heavily on borrowed credibility. In the sprawling world of Hollywood, where image and influence often blend seamlessly, a public rebuke from a revered figure like Sir David Attenborough sent ripples far beyond the shores of the UK. Meghan Markle's as ever brand was not only a business venture, it was a statement of identity, one that sought validation from her peers in the entertainment industry. But when Attenborough publicly disavowed any association, it triggered an immediate reevaluation among the celebrities and influencers who had been tentatively circling the brand. Hollywood is nothing if not a complex ecosystem of alliances, loyalties, and strategic positioning. For many actors, producers, and media personalities, lending support to a brand means more than just endorsing products. It's about signaling shared values and gaining favor in the cultural conversation. Meghan's celebrity status had long offered her a unique platform, but with this scandal, that platform suddenly felt shaky. The first sign of Hollywood's unease was silence. At award shows, charity galas, and industry mixers in Los Angeles and New York, Meghan's as ever was noticeably absent from gift bags and sponsored events. A well-connected publicist revealed that several A-list celebrities who had previously expressed support for Meghan quietly declined invitations to partner with the brand. No one wanted to be caught in the fallout, the publicist explained. There's a lot of caution right now. People don't want to be associated with controversy, especially one involving someone as respected as Sir David Attenborough. That caution quickly turned into subtle snubs. In a highly publicized interview on a popular late-night talk show, a leading actress was asked about her involvement with As Ever. Instead of confirming participation, she gave a vague response, praising the concept of sustainability but carefully avoiding any direct mention of the brand or Meghan Markle. Viewers and media outlets immediately interpreted the dodge as a quiet distancing. Further complicating matters, whispers circulated about a high-profile influencer who had signed a contract with As Ever but backed out just days after Attenborough's statement. Sources suggested that the influencer, known for her environmental activism, felt morally conflicted and did not want to risk her reputation by aligning with a brand under scrutiny for misappropriating a conservation icon's name. The impact was even more pronounced among Hollywood's inner circles. One veteran producer, who preferred to remain anonymous, noted that conversations about Meghan's brand had shifted from curiosity to skepticism. There was initial excitement about the idea of a Duchess-turned-entrepreneur embracing eco-consciousness, the producer said. But when you see a figure like Sir David push back, it raises red flags. people start questioning how genuine it all is. Even Meghan's closest celebrity allies appeared to step back, at least publicly. Oprah Winfrey, who had famously supported Meghan in previous high-profile interviews, remained conspicuously silent on the as-ever controversy. When asked about the brand in a recent interview, Oprah deflected, emphasizing Meghan's personal journey without endorsing the business venture. Industry insiders speculated that Oprah's measured response was a strategic decision to avoid further polarizing public opinion. Social media added another layer of complexity. Influencers who had posted glowing reviews of as-ever products found themselves inundated with mixed reactions from followers. Some fans defended Meghan fiercely, applauding her entrepreneurial spirit and commitment to sustainability. Others criticized what they saw as a cynical attempt to capitalize on a revered figure's reputation without permission. This digital tug-of-war made many influencers reconsider their public support. Amid this atmosphere, subtle shade began to emerge in public statements and interviews. In a rare moment, a prominent environmental activist who had previously collaborated with Meghan on charitable projects commented, "True sustainability requires transparency and respect for those who have dedicated their lives to it. It's disappointing when those principles are overlooked." While never naming Meghan or as-ever, the activist's remarks were widely interpreted as a critique of the brand's approach and the controversy surrounding Attenborough's disavowal. The cumulative effect of Hollywood's reactions was a chilling message. Celebrity status and good intentions are not enough to shield a brand from ethical scrutiny and public accountability. In an industry where image is currency, as-ever faced a rapid depreciation in goodwill. Brand partnerships that had once seemed promising cooled overnight. Invitations to exclusive events and product placements waned. And as word spread, the brand's attempts to engage with the entertainment world felt increasingly hollow. This cooling of celebrity enthusiasm also influenced media coverage. Entertainment journalists who had initially been curious about as-ever's potential shifted their tone. Features that once highlighted Meghan's savvy business moves now questioned the sustainability of her brand's ethics. Headlines subtly echoed the growing doubts, framing the story less as a triumph and more as a cautionary tale about celebrity ventures gone awry. Despite the setbacks, there were pockets of support. A few independent artists and eco-conscious creators publicly expressed belief in Meghan's vision and continued to use as-ever products. Yet, these voices were often overshadowed by the louder chorus of criticism and skepticism. Ultimately, Hollywood's reaction to the Attenborough controversy underscored the fragile balance celebrities must maintain between influence and authenticity. It demonstrated that even those with the highest profiles are vulnerable when questions of ethics and respect arise. For Meghan Markle and as-ever, the path forward would require more than product launches and celebrity endorsements. It would demand a deep reckoning with trust, transparency, and the very principles the brand claimed to embody. Within the ornate walls of Buckingham Palace and the stately residences of the royal family, the fallout from Sir David Attenborough's public rejection of Meghan Markle's as-ever brand sent waves of quiet satisfaction mingled with careful diplomacy. For a monarchy still grappling with the lasting impact of the Sussex's departure, the incident was both a confirmation and a complication, one that reinforced long-standing divisions while testing the limits of public civility. Privately, many senior royals viewed the controversy with a degree of vindication. After years of tension and public disputes, the public disavowal by one of Britain's most respected and apolitical figures was seen by insiders as a symbolic blow to Meghan's attempts to carve out an independent legacy tied, however tenuously, to traditional British values and prestige. A palace aide, speaking on condition of anonymity, described the atmosphere as a mix of quiet smiles and resigned acknowledgement. The aide noted that it's not about gloating. It's about recognizing when lines are crossed and knowing the importance of reputation, something this family guards fiercely. King Charles, known for his environmental advocacy and personal friendship with Sir David Attenborough, was reportedly deeply aware of the statement's weight. Sources close to Clarence House indicated that Charles had reviewed the situation carefully with his communications team. His approach, they said, was measured but firm, emphasizing the need to maintain distance from the controversy while quietly affirming Attenborough's stance. Prince William, whose environmental campaigns have often featured collaboration with Sir David, took a more outspoken private position. Insiders claim that William viewed the incident as an important moment of reckoning for Meghan's brand. David has always been a beacon of integrity for us, a source close to the Duke of Cambridge shared. This was a necessary course correction, a reminder that respect and permission matter, especially when you're engaging with British cultural icons. Princess, and often described as the family's no-nonsense realist, reportedly expressed her views with characteristic bluntness. She saw the episode as yet another example of what she considers recklessness in the Sussex's approach to public life. While and rarely comments publicly on family affairs, sources reveal she believes that actions have consequences, especially when they involve misuse of influence. The broader royal communications apparatus faced a delicate challenge. While it was not the family's role to comment officially on the Attenborough-Markle controversy, the event inevitably influenced public perceptions of the monarchy's fractured state. Senior advisors worked swiftly to distance the institution from Meghan's brand activities, emphasizing that any endorsement or association with as ever was false and not recognized by the crown. In strategic communications meetings, palace officials discussed how to respond if questioned by the press. The consensus was to maintain neutral silence publicly, allowing Attenborough's statement to speak for itself, while reinforcing internally that the monarchy would not engage in personal disputes. This posture was aimed at preserving the dignity of the royal family, while avoiding fueling further media speculation. Social media teams at various royal households ramped up monitoring of conversations around the incident. While official accounts remained silent, several royal pages and affiliated organizations subtly highlighted their ongoing commitment to genuine environmental causes, implicitly contrasting themselves with the controversies surrounding as ever. Behind the scenes, the incident also became a talking point among extended royal family members and staff. Some staffers reportedly expressed frustration over the repeated association of Meghan's ventures with royal symbolism, fearing it diluted the monarchy's gravitas. Others empathized with the challenges Meghan faced, acknowledging the difficulties of transitioning from royal life to independent public figurehood. Prince Harry's reaction, while not publicly documented, was reportedly one of disappointment and concern. Close friends suggest that Harry felt caught between loyalty to his wife and respect for figures like Attenborough, who he has long admired. Some insiders say Harry privately urged Meghan to approach her brand with greater sensitivity toward the cultural icons she referenced. The incident also sparked renewed debate within royal circles about the Sussex's future relationship with the institution. Advisors speculated that the controversy would further hinder any prospects of reconciliation or reintegration, given the widening gap between public perception and family dynamics. Legal teams affiliated with the Crown reportedly reviewed the potential implications of the incident, particularly concerning unauthorized use of names and images in commercial ventures. While the monarchy itself was not a direct party, the situation underscored the importance of clear boundaries between royal symbolism and private enterprise. Public relations experts who have worked with the royal family commented on the strategic implications of the controversy. One consultant explained, "The monarchy thrives on tradition, protocol, and controlled messaging. Meghan's brand, especially when it crosses lines into revered cultural territory without permission, disrupts that carefully maintained balance." Despite the private satisfaction felt by some royal members, the family remained conscious of the wider public implications. Many recognized that the monarchy's relevance depends on public trust and that controversies involving prominent family members risk eroding that trust. To this end, palace officials coordinated with Sir David Attenborough's team to ensure that any future communications would be handled with sensitivity and respect for all parties involved. The shared goal was to minimize further fallout and preserve the dignity of both the monarchy and Britain's beloved naturalist. As the dust settled, royal commentators noted that the incident was emblematic of a larger struggle within the family, balancing tradition and modernity, public service and private ambition, legacy and reinvention. For now, the message from Buckingham Palace was clear. While personal endeavors of former royals may capture headlines, the institution itself remains distinct, grounded in values of respect, discretion, and integrity. The public rejection of Meghan Markle's as ever brand by Sir David Attenborough didn't just trigger a media frenzy and reputational fallout. It also raised serious legal questions about the unauthorized use of a public figure's name and implied endorsement in commercial ventures. Behind the headlines and social media storms, legal experts began dissecting the implications of the controversy, exploring whether Meghan or her team could face lawsuits, regulatory scrutiny, or demands for public inquiry. At the heart of the matter is the principle of consent in celebrity endorsements. In many jurisdictions, including the United Kingdom and the United States, the use of a person's name, image, or likeness in advertising or marketing materials without explicit permission can constitute a violation of rights, often referred to as right of publicity. This legal protection is designed to prevent unauthorized commercial exploitation and safeguard the individual's control over how their identity is used. In the case of As Ever, the references to Sir David Attenborough, whether direct or implied, came under intense scrutiny. While Meghan's promotional materials did not claim a formal endorsement, leaked internal documents and influencer briefing notes suggested deliberate attempts to evoke Attenborough's reputation and values. Legal scholars pointed out that even subtle allusions, when designed to influence consumer behavior, can be legally actionable if they mislead the public into believing there is an endorsement. Professor Eleanor Mitchell, an expert in intellectual property law at the University of London, explained, "The right of publicity protects individuals from unauthorized commercial use of their identity. If a company or individual implies endorsement without consent, that could constitute a false endorsement claim, which is actionable under both tort and consumer protection laws." Mitchell added that in the UK, the Advertising Standards Authority, ESA, also has regulations to prevent misleading advertising. Even without formal endorsement, if the messaging leads consumers to believe a public figure supports a product, regulators can intervene. In practical terms, this means that Sir David Attenborough or his representatives could pursue several courses of action. One option is a civil lawsuit alleging false endorsement or misappropriation of personality rights. Such cases often seek damages and injunctions to prevent further use of the name or likeness. Legal analysts also noted the possibility of a complaint to regulatory bodies like the ASA, which could result in public rulings requiring corrective advertising and fines for misleading claims. However, experts caution that such cases are often complex and depend on the specific language and context of the marketing materials. For instance, if Meghan's team had framed references as purely inspirational rather than endorsements, the defense might argue lack of intent to mislead. Still, the leaked documents and subsequent social media messaging weakened that defense, according to industry observers. In the United States, where Meghan resides and where As Ever is marketed, laws around personality rights vary by state but generally protect against unauthorized commercial use. High-profile precedent exists, including cases where celebrities successfully sued companies for implying endorsements without permission. The legal risks extend beyond direct lawsuits. Consumer watchdog groups and class action litigators might investigate whether customers were misled, potentially leading to further legal exposure. Meghan's legal team reportedly conducted an internal review following Attenborough's statement. While they did not publicly comment, sources familiar with the matter suggested the review focused on damage limitation, compliance with advertising standards, and assessing risks of potential litigation. Another consideration is the broader impact on brand partnerships. Retailers and distributors might be wary of stocking products embroiled in legal controversy, compounding the commercial damage. There is also the question of reputational harm, which, while not strictly legal, plays a crucial role in legal settlements. Public figures often seek to protect their name not only for financial reasons, but to safeguard personal and professional legacies. Legal experts note that Sir David Attenborough's team has historically been proactive in protecting his image and reputation, especially given his global stature and long-standing commitment to ethical stewardship. Beyond legal action, there is the possibility of a formal public inquiry or investigation by advertising regulators. Such inquiries examine the fairness and transparency of marketing practices, with the authority to mandate corrective measures and public disclosures. While there has been no official confirmation of regulatory involvement to date, the controversy has certainly attracted the attention of oversight agencies monitoring celebrity endorsements and ethical advertising. For Meghan Markle, navigating these legal waters is challenging. On one hand, her brand's marketing approach sought to align with revered values and figures to gain trust. On the other, the lack of explicit permission and the public rebuke have exposed vulnerabilities that legal opponents could exploit. Industry insiders caution that legal battles of this nature are not only expensive and time-consuming but also risk prolonging negative publicity. Some experts suggest that an early settlement or public clarification could mitigate long-term damage. Others argue that the best course may be to overhaul the brand's messaging and avoid any further references to protected figures. From a broader perspective, the legal dimension of the controversy highlights the increasing scrutiny that celebrity brands face in today's marketplace. As consumers become more savvy and regulators more vigilant, companies must tread carefully when invoking endorsements, explicit or implied. The case also underscores the evolving nature of personal rights in the digital age, where the lines between inspiration, affiliation, and endorsement can blur rapidly and widely. In summary, while no formal lawsuits or regulatory actions have yet been announced, the potential for legal repercussions looms large. The Attenborough-Markle incident serves as a cautionary tale about the importance of respecting intellectual property and personal rights, particularly when building commercial brands tied to public figures. Today, Sir David Attenborough publicly rejects Meghan's lifestyle brand as ever, delivering a rare and blunt warning: "Don't use my name. This isn't just a branding blunder. It's a public humiliation with deep repercussions." We'll uncover how a simple reference sparked a royal storm, why Attenborough's rebuke matters more than ever, and what this means for Meghan's fragile empire. Stay tuned, because this story is just getting started, and the fallout could